Good afternoon and welcome today. We're going to talk about today motivation and inspiration, the difference between them and how they're probably not what you think they are and how to use them to achieve great things. Okay, so a lot of people have a slightly wrong impression of what inspiration and motivation are. But once you can figure out what they really are, it can really make a huge difference to whether you're learning something, teaching it, or doing business or whatever you're doing. And suddenly with motivation, motivation isn't the rah rah, you can do it, come on type thing. That's not motivation. It's something very, very different, but very powerful. So this came up in this morning's coaching call I had this morning. So I thought, okay, let's jump on a video. Well, it's all what we were talking about. It's all nice and fresh, so I can go through it because. A lot of different things we take from different areas and put together in one. And of course, those of you watching live, wow, there's so many of you watching live. Oksana and Deborah and Jeff and Noor and David, all lots of people. So if you've got questions, put them in the comments and I'll answer them. And today I waited until after 12, so hopefully we don't get the church bells. Should be cool. So, okay, inspiration and motivation. These two things, they're very, very powerful things and they'll make a huge difference for you. So let's slow down. Okay, let's deal with inspiration first. So what's inspiration and how can you use it? So if you want to let me know in the comments what you think inspiration is, and then I'll go through what I think it is and a way of thinking about it that can really help you. So the key thing with inspiration is that inspiration is the power of how do you do that? How does she do that? How does he do that? It's the curiosity. It's when you do something and then your fans or your potential students go, wow, I want to know how to do that. It creates an open loop. It creates curiosity. It creates wanting to know something. So, for example, like in my... for exactly the same thing, inspiration is where curiosity lives, yeah. So for example, in my business groups, like with teachers in my business groups, when people are getting a bit down, then I put some inspiration in there, and that would be stories of teachers who, the teacher who made $1 million, or it'd be a story of a teacher who's like Russia, who's opened their 4th school, or somebody who's opened their 10th school maybe, to inspire you to think, wow, how do they do that? How does she do that? And when I'm doing language classes, in my language groups as well, I make purposely, make a point of using my languages when I'm talking. So we do something and then I'd flip to Japanese, then we'd flip to French, and then people would challenge me to say the same thing in Russian or in Italian or whatever. And people can see doing the different things and speaking the different languages or doing the different stuff. And that's what inspires people. Now, the key here is you're not boasting. So boasting and inspiring are two different things. And so boasting is when you're just only talking about your successes. And you say, hey, look at me. Yes, I'm so brilliant. I speak 57 bazillion languages and I'm so awesome and amazing. And nobody cares about that. So the inspiration part is you have to show the struggle. And people have to see that it's real. Because if they just see you speaking a fluent language, they'll go, yeah, but. Now you get all the yeah, but people, which we don't really want. But they go, yeah, but he lives in Italy, he speaks Italian. Yeah, but he was born in England, he speaks English. Yeah, but. So instead, you have to do this with two ways of doing it. So the first one is, if it's a skill you've already got, like if you're an English teacher or if you're a language teacher, and you want to show people you've learned a foreign language and you've already achieved it. If you've already achieved that language or achieved that skill or achieved that business goal, whatever it is, you want to tell the story of how you learnt it. And that doesn't mean, okay, so one day I was doing this and then the next day I did that. Not the full story. It's one part of it that had a challenge in there that is the challenge that your current students or future students are going through. Okay, so for example, if we're talking about learning, say, Japanese or something, you can say, I can remember having to sit down with a notebook and write out every day 100 different kanji and write them over and over and over and over, and it was terrible. But luckily, I found a better way around that, so we don't have to do that anymore. And people say, well, how do you do that? How do you do that? But also then they have to actually see you writing out all these, or writing an article in Japanese, or writing an article in English, or whatever it is. They actually have to see you using that language and being competent in it. So remember, if you're an English teacher, you have to be good at English. Not perfect, because nobody can be perfect, but good at it, are better than your students, and they have to see the struggle, okay? And if you're a native English speaker, your students have to see you speaking and learning another language, because if they don't, then they think, well, if they don't learn another language, how can they teach me? So that's the inspiration for a skill that you already know. So if you've already got a skill that you're good at, show off with it, show your awesome stuff, and then show the story of how you got good at it. And that will inspire people. They'll go, wow, I want to learn more. Tell me more. And then on social media, you tell them as much as you can. And then whatever you can't say on social media, whatever you don't have room for on social media, that's your course. That's your paid classes. That's what people pay you the money for. So for example, if you're doing, say, let's sketchnoting. That's great. We're learning sketchnoting in my family now. And we were looking for someone who can do sketchnoting. So first we want someone who's totally awesome at it. And then we want to know how they learnt it. And then we want to know, we're curious, we want to know how to do it. So they give away as much as they can in their free stuff in the social media. And if you can give everything away in social media, do it. Because that's not a course. That's not something to be paid for. If people can learn it that quickly through social media, then that's awesome, yeah? But then the things you can't learn through social media, that's when your paid courses and your classes come in. So especially if you're an English teacher or if you're a language teacher or whatever, you can't teach everything on there, okay? So you teach as much as you can, get your students as good as you can, and then afterwards, the other stuff, that's what they pay you for. Does that make sense? Now, the other form of inspiration is for a skill you don't have yet. So if there's a skill that you really want to teach or you really want to learn it in public. So if you noticed in my sketchnoting last week, I uploaded my first sketch notes and they're terrible. And everyone was saying, why are you uploading something that's so bad? And I'm like, well, people need to see where I've come from, yeah? And then hopefully as I get better, you go, wow, that's really cool. And then I'll teach other people it or maybe do a course on it or something, I don't know. We'll have to see. So if there's something you want to get good at, blog your journey or Facebook your journey or Instagram your journey or whatever it is. On social media, share what you're doing. Say, this is where I am now, and start talking the language or doing the business or whatever it is. And then as you're learning, share everything you're learning. And then at the end of it, people go, wow, she actually did it. Wow, how did you do that? And then you can say, okay, go back to some social media. You'll see how I did it. And then when they come back to you and say, I want to know more, that's when you sell your course. Does that make sense? Yeah? So that's inspiration. Inspiration is the power of how do you do that? Okay? And you've got to be good. And, you see all these fake gurus now and these people saying, hey, you can speak English in 3 days, blah, 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 and they don't speak English. Or people saying, use my new teaching system and you can become the best teacher in town, and they've never taught English. Or people who say, hey, you earn $1 billion, and they've never done it, yeah? So you've got to make sure the person has done it, and you as the teacher have to make sure you've done it, yeah? Or learn how to do it. That's inspiration. Now, it's the piano teacher thing, yeah? It's like, if you've got two piano teachers, one of them can only play 3 notes, but one of them can play anything. Which piano teacher do you want? It's the one who can play anything. Now, of course, you get some people saying, oh, but yeah, people, a lot of jealous people who say, yeah, but do they really know how to teach? And it's like, that's just jealousy, okay? Now, if you're in a world where everybody can play piano, then how do you choose your teacher? You choose your teacher. Do you choose the teacher whose students can play anything? Or do you choose the teacher whose students can't do anything, can only play 3 notes? Yeah. So then, in a world where everybody has this skill, then it's your student's success that's the most important thing. Okay, so now that makes sense. So that's inspiration, yeah? So then motivation. I had one more inspiration story. I'll keep it to the end. Open loop. And then motivation. What is motivation? So motivation is not something you can give. Motivation comes from the word motion. It's from motion and doing things. So motivation is when you teach something to someone and you teach them something they thought they couldn't do. So they start off coming to you as the teacher Or maybe they're learning on their own, but most of you are teachers, so we're talking about teaching here. So a student comes to you, they thought they couldn't do something, or they didn't know how to do something. And at the end of the lesson, they learned how to do it, and they went, wow, I just did it. That's where motivation comes from, okay? So if people are just coming to your lesson and they don't know why, they don't know what they're wanting to learn, and they don't know what they're doing, and then they end the lesson not knowing what they've just done, no motivation, none at all. If the kids come and you go, here's a new book and here's a page, today we're going to finish this textbook or whatever, no motivation at all. It has to be something they thought they couldn't do, you teach them to do it, and then they can do it. Okay? And then you move on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. That is the key to motivation. So if you find your students are not motivated, find out how you can implement that in your teaching. Now, a lot of it is student selection, which we've talked a lot about before. Is you choose who comes in your lessons. But the idea is, show them something wow, inspire them. Yeah. So accidentally let them see you talking to your, before class. Accidentally let them hear you talking fluently with your friends in America or something, and they go, "Wow, that's amazing! I want to learn how to do that." Cool. I'm going to show you. My guitar teacher, in the class, he was just a little bit above us. Yeah, just so we didn't get too demotivated. He was a little bit above us. But then when we went out of the room, we could hear him going full on Eddie Van Halen going, blah, blah, blah. We were like, that's what we want to do. Yeah. And conversely, my DJ teacher was the opposite. My DJ teacher would only teach us like beat matching. And we're like, well, that's okay. It's a bit boring. And then he would do these amazing remixes with like turntablism. We were like, that's what we want to learn. Teach us that. And he was like, no, you've got to do this first. And I was like, no, we want to do that awesome thing. Teach us that, please, now. That's what we want. Inspire, motivate. And then when he taught us how to do the little cool stuff, we were going, wow, that's amazing. We got motivated and we wanted to keep going and keep going and keep going. Yeah. So the way I do that when I'm teaching is, if you look through any of my paid courses, when you jump into a paid course, we always start off with quick wins. So there's a few little quick things you can do that instantly get you some amazing results, whether that's on teaching or the business or whatever it is I'm teaching. You get these quick wins, you go, oh, wow, that's cool. And then you can then start teaching the proper subject and building up each time. But if you start off at the beginning and with a lot of, like when I was teaching music, a lot of teachers would start off teaching scales, and you're like, yeah, it's boring. It's not. Who gets inspired by learning to play a scale? Who gets inspired by learning to write the alphabet, or who gets inspired by learning a grammar point? Nobody does. People get inspired by seeing awesome things. So those are the two things there, inspiration. So think, the cool thing with the inspiration is that's what your social media is for. Your social media isn't really for teaching, okay? Because if you start teaching on social media, you just get the freeloaders. You just get the people who want everything for free and they don't really want to do anything, yeah? So social media is where you show the inspiration. They show you speaking to people in English, and they show your stories of how you learnt English. They show your stories of how you're learning a new language. If you've just arrived in Tanzania and you're learning Swahili, you start off and you show your challenge and your story of how you learnt it, and people go, wow, look at this, how he's learning this language, how she's learning this. It's awesome, yeah. The inspiration. Put that on social media. It's your inspiration, yeah. It's people go, wow. How do you do that? That's what people want to see. And then for the motivation is giving people quick wins. This idea of showing people how to do something they didn't think they could do, and then they can do it, and they go, wow, that's amazing, I want more. So your homework for this week is, what can you do? And let us know in the comments as well. What can you do to inspire people this week? How can you inspire your current students? How can you inspire your future students? And then for motivation, how can you motivate your students you have now? What thing can you teach them that they don't know how to do, and you can show them how to do it and let them go, wow, that's the cool thing. And remember, that can be anything. That can be English. You can maybe they think they can't speak to real native speakers, so you set up a Zoom call with Australia or America. Maybe it's they think they can't get 100% on the exam, so you show them exam techniques so they can get 100%. Maybe they think they can't speak English or can't do something, and you show them to get them speaking and get it on video. Maybe they think they can't get on video, so you Give them the confidence to be able to get on video and they'll go, wow, and they can show their friends and go, look at me, it's cool, awesome. And they want to learn more and more. That's the key, inspiration and motivation. What do you think? I'm Richard from Genki English. Let me know in the comments and I'll catch you later. Bye-bye.